Welcome back to BEFM Drama. I'm your host, Ryan Estrada. This season we're adapting a 22-part series of stories that Charles Dickens wrote as follow-ups to A Christmas Carol, but the world quickly forgot about. Today we are continuing our adaptation of The Seven Poor Travelers. Last week we had a 2-part adaptation of Dickens' contributions, and this week we have a 2-part radio play inspired by the long-lost parts of the book that he outsourced to other writers, and then cut from future releases of the book. These stories were in a wide variety of genres and tones, so I'll warn you, there will be some tonal shifts. Some parts are very silly and some parts are very serious. The original stories were written by George A. Sala, Adelaide Anne Procter, Wilkie Collins, and Eliza Lynn Linton. Since we let goblins sit out in the non-Dickens parts of this series, we're going to let his partner, forensic detective Fern, take the lead in the case. Please enjoy part 2 of The Case of the Seven Suspicious Travelers.
All right. Yeah, okay, where were we? A 2-parter. Yeah, this is exciting. Okay, let me recap. Okay, first, I was going off on a vacation, but along the way, I was stranded. I was one of 7 poor passengers to get stuck in an airport terminal overnight during a snowstorm. There was no way in and there was no way out. It was already a rough night, but then a man was poisoned by a gingerbread cookie. I had to help him, but first I had to figure out what he was poisoned with and hopefully who had done it so then I could make sure everybody else was going to be safe. Luckily, in addition to being a paramedic, I also dabble in a little bit of forensic detective work. There were 7 travelers. First was me. Then there was Mr. Chatham, the man who had bought the cookies. He was hiding something in a briefcase, but he wouldn't tell us what. There was Mr. Reed, a guy carrying a stack of mystery novels about poisoning, who had been the last to touch the cookies. But he also seemed very eager to help. And then there was Acott. She claimed she'd fallen asleep in a massage chair and been locked in a gift shop while all of this had happened. The only ones left to interrogate were a mother and her kid, and the victim himself, who we just discovered was involved in a blackmail scheme, and who had just gone missing.
So he's a blackmailer.
We have to find him. If he's managed to escape the airport, he can't have gone far. We'll be able to follow his tracks in the snow and...
Oh, he's in the bathroom.
I walked into the bathroom and knocked on the stall door. Mr. Davinger, I presume? Are you okay in there?
No, I'm not okay in here. It feels like my face is melting off. My tongue is numb, and I can barely breathe.
Well, I'm happy to hear that you're able to talk again, so you'd better talk.
What? Just leave me alone.
Sir, as a paramedic, I cannot neglect my duty.
What does solving a locked room mystery have to do with your duty?
Okay, I'll admit that I've strayed a little from my original mission, but I'm invested now. Do you have any idea who poisoned you, or why?
How would I know?
I know about the blackmail letter.
Did you go through my things? How dare you?
Hey, don't act like I'm the bad guy here. You're the one blackmailing some sweet couple on their wedding day.
Her father was a fraud who stole his money from my family. And now after he lost it, his daughter is marrying the richest man in town. Well, Mr. Gatliff wouldn't let the wedding go on if he knew what I knew. I have the evidence, and I just wanted the money her father stole from me.
Do you think someone here would have poisoned you to get that evidence?
It's not even in here. It's in town, buried where no one can find it. But the map to find it has been stolen, right here in this airport. I need that map to find it. I swear it was it 4 along and 6 across, or 5 along and 3 across. Oh, it was written down on that map.
Who do you think stole it?
I'll tell you who did it. It's the mother.
The lady with the kid?
You've seen how nervous she is. Watching everyone and hiding in the corner. When we went through security, I swear I saw her hide something in her son's sippy cup. I overheard her whisper to the boy not to touch it. And then when she told her kid not to touch the cookies, I heard her whisper something about poison. She knew, because she poisoned him. Someone sent her to steal my map.
Well, it's time that we pay that lady a visit. But first, I have something I need to do at the Sky Fair.
You are back. Oh, thank goodness. Did you find a way to get me out?
Oh, no, I didn't. I was just wondering if there's a pharmacy anywhere in there. Do they have anything for poisoning, like any activated charcoal or something?
No, it's only gifts.
All right, never mind.
Oh, come on. Hey, let me out, man.
What are you doing?
Okay, ma'am. Tell us what you poisoned Mr. Davinger with.
Stay away from me.
I'm a medical detective. Tell us what you poisoned Mr. Davinger with so we can find a cure.
What are you talking about? Who is Mr. Davinger?
He's the man who ate all the poisoned cookies.
The cookies were poisoned. Oh no. Oh no, oh no. It's true. He has found me.
What are you talking about?
The man who's trying to kill me. The man who poisoned my sister. I tried to run. I tried to fly to the most remote place I could find, but we got trapped at this airport and he's come to kill me. It must be that man with the briefcase. The killer must have sent him.
What are you talking about? No one sent me here. I was just trying to be nice and buy your kids some cookies.
Then how did they get poisoned?
How would I know?
Okay, look. I just want to get to the bottom of this. Tell me, who's trying to poison you?
My husband.
The young mother started to tell her story. No one else spoke. We were all in shock. The mood had suddenly shifted into a very cold and dead seriousness.
They told me not to marry him. They told me he was wild, unprincipled, bad. But I didn't care what they said. I loved him and I disbelieved them. I only knew that he was more beautiful and gifted than anyone I had ever met. I loved him with my whole heart, my whole soul. I had no life, no joy, no hope without him, and heaven would have been no heaven to me if he had not been there. I was so stupid. I don't know how I loved someone I knew so little about. I didn't even know what he did for a living. He was always busy and often absent, but he never told me what he did. We didn't even get a shared bank account. He said he was morally opposed to them, that they were insulting to a man's honor and degrading to any husband. This was one of the reasons why, at home, they did not want me to marry him. But I was only glad to be able to show him how I trusted him, by meeting his wishes and refusing on my own account to accept the legal protection of settlements. It was such a pride in me to sacrifice all to him. Thus, I knew nothing of his real life, his pursuits or his fortunes. I never asked him any questions. Most days were amazing. He was so loving and sweet. But sometimes he came home moody and irritable. When we had been married about 3 months, he threatened to hit me, with a scary glare in his eyes I remember so well, and used to see so often afterwards. Then I was patient and silent, and never attempted even to take his hand or kiss his forehead. I decided that my only joy was to see him happy, and my only duty to obey him. We had been married for 3 years, already given birth to our son, when my sister came to visit. She hated my husband, and I could never figure out why. He was always so kind to her. He opened doors for her, he pulled out chairs for her. A real gentleman, I thought. She was cold and quiet when he was in the room, and once we were alone, she would fall at my feet with a passion very rare in her, begging me to think about my life, as if I had sold myself to my ruin when I promised to be Harry's wife. Sometimes at night, I heard she and my husband arguing in another room, but I couldn't make out what they were saying. I didn't dare interrupt. There was a mystery between them that I did not know of, and I didn't want to ask either of them, for I was afraid of them both. I felt like a reed between them, as if I could have been crushed beneath any storm I might chance to wake up. So I was silent, suffering alone, and bearing a cheerful face so far as I could. Ellen wanted me to return home with her. She begged, but I said no. Weak as I am by nature, it has always been a marvel to me since how strong I was where my love for my husband was concerned. She shouted at me, "Mary, this is madness! It's almost sinful! Can you not see? Can you not hear?" I asked her what that was supposed to mean. She asked, Mary, what is Harry's job? I don't know, darling, I answered vaguely. Then where does his money come from? Did he not tell you what his income was and how obtained when he married? She replied. I had trusted so blindly to him in everything that it would have seemed to me a profound insult to have even asked of his affairs. I told her that he gave me money when I wanted it and was always generous, often giving me more than I required. She stared at me and asked, "And this is all you know?" "Yes," I replied. "What more should I wish to know? I have no business to interfere in his affairs. If you have some terrible secret, tell me right now. I can't bear this anymore." She asked me, "Could you really bear the truth?" and stormed off to her room. My husband Harry came in and started shouting at me. "What has she been saying?" His eyes bulged, his sweat beaded, his beautiful black hair flung all around his face. "She said nothing about you," I answered, trembling. "She only asked what your job was and how much you make a year, that was all." Harry grabbed me and shook me violently. "Why does she want to know? What business was it of hers? Tell me! What did you tell her, you little fool?" I started to cry and told him that I'd said nothing. He responded, "Tears and folly and weakness, always the same. Why did I marry a mere pretty doll instead of a real wife?" And then he seemed to think he'd said too much, for he came to me and kissed me and said that he loved me. But for the first time in our married life, his kisses did not soothe me, nor did I believe his assurances. I went to sleep while Harry disappeared to who knows where. A little while later, I heard a faint scream upstairs. It was so faint I could scarcely distinguish it from a sudden rush of wind through an opening door or the chirp of a mouse behind the dresser. Then I heard my husband's voice shout, "Mary! Mary! Quick here! Your sister, Ellen!" I ran upstairs. It seems to me now that I almost flew. I found Ellen lying on the floor of her own room, just inside the door. She was fainting. At least, I thought so then. We raised her up between us, my husband trembling more than I. I told Harry to go for a doctor. A horrid thought was stealing over me, but he lingered. I had to scream to get him to go. But it was too late. My sister was gone. Until I looked up and saw her. Even as a ghost, she looked so lively and beautiful. I briefly forgot that I was holding her body in my arms. She pointed to a cup of tea on the nightstand, which had spilled. She then pointed to a trash can beside the bed. I ran over, and inside, I found a small poison vial. It was empty. The ghostly figure pointed in the trash can again. I saw a crumpled up letter. It was written in my husband's handwriting. It said, "I never really loved her, Ellen. She pleased me only as a doll would please a child, and I married her from pity, not from love. You, Ellen, you alone could fill my heart. Fly with me, Ellen, or you will see what happens to those who reject me." I turned to see my husband waiting in the doorway. He had not called for a doctor. He had intended for my sister to die. This was what happened to people who rejected him. "What are you looking at?" he asked me angrily. I shouted at him to get away from me. "Don't you dare reject me now. Don't make me show you what happens to those who reject me." I ran to my son's bedroom and grabbed him. My husband screamed at me not to touch his son. I ran down the stairs with my son in my arms. I was able to grab my pepper spray and stun him long enough to get away. But he screamed after me that he would find me wherever I went. That is why I was flying out to the smallest, most far from civilization town I could. And why I've been hiding in the corner, watching for him. Because this time, I'm not going down without a fight.
I'm so sorry about everything that you've been through.
I heard you. You're the poisoner. I saw you hide something in your sippy cup.
That was my pepper spray. I didn't feel safe without it, so I snuck it into the airport.
I heard you say the cookies were poisoned.
I told my son not to accept any food from any strangers, as any mother should, especially when someone is trying to poison her. And it seems I was right. But who has poisoned them?
And who's taking my map?
Mr. Chatham did it. He bought the cookies. Are you involved in my husband's business? Are you working for him?
I'm not here to poison anyone.
Then what's in the briefcase?
None of your business.
Give it to me.
No.
They fought over the briefcase until it fell out of their hands and burst open on the floor. Turned out it was full of...
Watches?
Yes, I'm a watchmaker.
Then why so secretive?
I look fine. I smuggle counterfeit watches, okay? That's all. Now you leave me alone. You're the one who touched the cookies.
I don't have a tragic backstory to justify my actions. I just wanted a cookie.
I am still trapped in the gift shop. Can someone let me out?
Davinger's a criminal. How do we know he didn't accidentally poison himself?
Hey, now. I'm a blackmailer, not a murderer. Why are we all confessing to crimes in front of a cop?
Who, me? I'm not a cop. I'm a paramedic.
You said you were a forensic investigator, right? No?
Well, it's more like a hobby. I mean, I watched a bunch of TV shows about it, so I get the general idea, and I do always have to figure out what's wrong with my patients, so it's like these skills, they overlap.
You do know that impersonating an officer is a felony, right?
One time I got drunk and stole an armadillo from the zoo.
What?
I don't know, everyone was admitting to crimes and I felt left out.
I've eaten like $140 worth of snacks while I've been stuck in here, and I'm not paying for them.
Someone tell me where my map is.
5 along, 4 cross, 5 along, 4 cross, 5
What
along,
did that
4
kid just
cross,
say?
5 along, 4 cross. I for the treasure man. Yoo-hoo-hoo!
Hey, is that...
That's my map.
I'm a pirate!
Oh, if only I had listened. The kid was talking about the map the whole time. You give me that map. Oh, it burns again. Oh.
Sweetie, how did you get the pepper spray?
Mommy, this toy is stinky.
So after all that, it turned out that the kid had just found a treasure map, started playing pirates, and thought that a can of pepper spray was a toy. He sprayed it up into the air, not knowing that some of it had landed on the cookies. Mr. Davinger hadn't been fatally poisoned, but, he was in good pain for like 30 minutes.
So there's no killer? We're all innocent?
Well, I mean, none of us are innocent.
Yeah, we probably did not need to confess to all of those crimes. Yeah, probably not. Hey, when the cops get here, maybe we don't tell them about all the watches, eh?
I didn't really steal an armadillo, guys. I was just joking.
I never said I was a cop. You just all assumed it.
Oh, that was a lie. I did steal an armadillo. I named him Tony.
Yeah, ha.
Hey, can you let me out?
Okay, everyone here is guilty of something, but no one is guilty of poisoning.
Except for him!
As we all turned, we saw this big burly man wrapped in heavy coats and scarves. He had clearly trudged through miles of deep snow to reach us. His face was red and he looked enraged. We all at once knew who he was. It was Mary's murderous husband. He had hunted her down to where he knew she'd be alone, but he was wrong. Now she had a whole army full of poor travelers ready to help. But before we could even pounce, Mary leapt forward and tackled the man.
Stay away from my son!
We helped her hold him down. As he struggled, a few small vials fell out of his pocket. It was the same poison that he'd used on her sister. We locked the man in the nursing interrogation room and waited for the police. When the police finally arrived the next morning, we had more than enough evidence to get the man locked up for a long, long time. And the day was saved. And more than ever, I needed that vacation.
Thank you for listening to BEFM Drama. This was The Case of the Seven Suspicious Travelers, based on The Seven Poor Travelers by George A. Sala, Adelaide Anne Procter, Wilkie Collins, and Eliza Lynn Linton. This radio play was written by me, Ryan Estrada. It starred Kelly Brassbridge as Fern, Michael Payne Wheeler as Mr. Reed, Jenny Payne Wheeler as Mary, Kim Hyun-suk as Acott, and me as Mr. Chatham and Mr. Davinger. Hidden Agenda, Hardboiled, Spyglass, Sneaky Snitch, Fast Talkin', and Gagool are by Kevin MacLeod of Incompetech and released under Creative Commons Attribution License. Thank you for listening to BEFM Drama.